Hi, sixth graders. This is your second book talk of the year for the month of November. I wanted to start by giving some reminders about how you can get a book from our library. And the first way is, of course, the way you've been doing it since the first week of school. And that is by placing books on hold using Destiny Discover. That's our library catalog. I've put a screenshot here of that button from the library homepage right here. So just a reminder that you can click on that and log in using your student ID number and your Colab password. And from there, once you've placed books on hold, you will get a Schoology message, usually from Mrs. Kump, when your books are ready. This, remember, is a great way to do, the book holds whether you are in school or at home, in particular on those days when you're at home, no matter what cohort you're in. It's a terrific way to make sure that you've got those books reserved for you and they're ready for you when you're back in the building. The second way is one that we've just recently started up, and that is that you can stop down during class, passing time, advisory or activity time for a quick browse and checkout. We're just asking that you're sanitizing your hands before you are looking on the shelves. The third way is using that Mac and Via app to get a hold of ebooks and audiobooks. A reminder that that app is on your iPad, downloaded from self-service. You can also access it and browse those books by going to the homepage and looking at that right here. Speaking of our catalog, I wanted to highlight the fact that there's always some additions and changes being made. We're trying to switch that up fairly frequently so that you have new books to look at all the time. Excuse me. Logging in here, I just wanted to point out right now the top banner is titled Elections and Voting. So we've got a bunch of books up there that are for the upcoming election. We have books about presidential elections, but also classroom elections and things like that, fiction and nonfiction both. Once the election's done, we're going to move on to a different topic. And so we are trying to switch that up every week or two just to give you new books to look at. It's a different way of shopping for books. Similar, I'd say, to when you walk into a bookstore and you notice different displays, different little tables or displays for books. This is a way for you to see some books that maybe you wouldn't take note of if you were walking down into the library. So hopefully this is a nice way for you to browse some books and go ahead and judge them by the cover, I say. It's a nice way to pick out a book that maybe you wouldn't normally pick up and take a look at. Also a reminder that these collections are down here underneath the topics. We're adding to those all the time as well. Ghost Stories was the one that we added just a couple weeks back with the month of October. And Pandemics and Plagues is here for obvious reasons. New and Notable has been a fun one. That's got 86 items in it. I'm going to click on that as well. This, again, is just another way for you to do some browsing without having to be in the library's physical space. But these are brand new books to the library within the last 3 to 6 months. Some of these books have only been checked out a handful of times. Others haven't been checked out even once yet. So it'd be really fun for you to be the first student to check it out. And you can place the books on hold this way as well.
Michaela, Julie, to the office, please.
So again, one other way for you to do some shopping and browsing, take a look at some of the books that we have here. And if you saw one that you liked, one that you thought you wanted to check out, you would just simply click on that book. And then if you were logged into the system, you could go ahead and put that book on hold. All right, let's get to our book talk. My first one to share today is The Honest Truth by Dan Guyman Hart, a favorite in realistic fiction. A story about a boy and his dog, a story about a boy who is fighting for his life, literally. A story with some sad parts, for sure. This is about Mark, who has been battling cancer for a long time, and it has once again returned. So he's decided that this is the time, it's his last chance, to climb Mount Rainier in Washington. His family is not on board with this idea, so he runs away with his camera and his notebook and his beloved dog, Bo. And the two of them head off on this journey to climb this mountain because he figures this is his chance to do it because he's dying. And I know that sounds like such a sad premise for a book. It sounds like the whole book is going to be doom and gloom, but it really isn't. It is a hopeful journey. It's a friendship story, and it's about the friendship of Mark and Bo, but it's also the friendship of Mark and his friend Jesse, who he's left behind. Because part of the story is told by Mark and how things are going well and also not so well on his trip. It's also the story of the people who are searching for Mark while he's gone. His friend Jesse, his parents, and others who are looking for him and wondering and worrying about how it's going. The Honest Truth by Dan Guyman Hart. This is an unforgettable story, and I promise you will not regret reading this book. The False Prince by Jennifer Nielsen, a favorite in the adventure section. This book is about a kingdom at war, and they are at war with one another. Connor has decided he is going to unify the people. He's got the idea of how he's going to bring them together, and that is to find someone who can impersonate the king's long-lost son. He wants to find someone who looks enough like him, and he's going to train that person to fight, right, sword fight, and do all the things a prince needs to do, and put him in that role. And that's going to be the way to bring the kingdom back together. In order to do so, Connor goes to an orphanage, and he collects 4 orphans and brings them with him and decides to train all of them. And Sage is one of those orphans. But Sage is quick-witted and smart and learns that Connor's plan is not simply to do exactly what he says. There is more to it than that. And Sage figures out that if he doesn't get to be the prince, things could go really poorly for him. It's a life or death situation, and that's where so much of this adventure takes off. This book is great. Jennifer Nielsen writes such fantastic books. She writes historical fiction and adventure. A wonderful author, The False Prince. The Last Dog on Earth. I guess I was thinking about dogs in this book talk. Daniel Ehrenhoft has written this one about Logan and Jack, and these two are best friends. Logan doesn't like anybody except for Jack, and Jack doesn't like anybody except for his owner Logan, her owner Logan, excuse me. But Jack's in a lot of danger because right now in Logan's world, there is a mysterious disease sweeping across the country. Imagine that. And in this situation, this is why this book is sci-fi, dogs are turning into these awful, vicious predators, attacking people, killing people. They're just becoming these creatures unlike themselves. And so people are shooting the dogs, killing the dogs, asking questions later. Logan's parents are afraid this is going to happen with Jack, that Jack is going to catch this disease and that she's going to be in bad shape. And so they've decided they're going to get rid of her before that happens and before their family's in danger. Well, Logan's not having that. Logan's not going to stick around and wait for that to happen. So he and Jack decide they're going to take off and find somewhere safe to be before Jack catches this disease. This is a really engrossing story. It's a fabulous science fiction premise and an idea that I think is really a fascinating one. And it's got that friendship between boy and dog that is at the heart of the story. Try this one out, The Last Dog on Earth. The Truth as Told by Mason Buttle by Leslie Connor. If you're a mystery lover and want to get to the bottom of what happened to Mason's best friend, Benny. Benny turned up dead in Mason's family's orchard 15 months before the start of this story. Mason is the biggest, sweatiest kid in his grade. He can't read or write particularly well. He's bullied a lot. But he is an honest kid. He's not one to tell any lies. And yet the policeman who keeps asking Mason questions about what happened to Benny, Mason can't figure out why the lieutenant doesn't seem to believe him. And then when Mason and his new friend Calvin get to know each other well and start hanging out. And then Calvin disappears. Mason can hardly believe it. He's in trouble again. It's like, all these bad things seem to keep happening around him. And he's desperate to find out not only now what happened to Benny, but now where Calvin has gone. And he doesn't know if he can get anyone to believe him. That's the story, the truth as told by Mason Buttle. Will anyone believe him? What exactly is the truth? What is Mason's truth? Read this book by Leslie Connor to find out. We'll end on a lighthearted note with King of the Mole People by Paul Gilligan. If you are a Diary of a Wimpy Kid fan, if you've read them all more than once, if you have read the Last Kids on Earth series, or if you have watched that on Netflix, this, I would say, was right up your alley. Let's take a look at the trailer first. This is the first book in a new series. Oh, to be worshipped when you don't want to be. Poor Doug. He didn't ask to be king. He thought being in 7th grade was hard enough, but it is nothing compared to trying to figure out how to navigate being the leader and trying to get everybody to get along, especially when those who are trying to get along are mole people and slug people and mushroom folk and stone goons. Not to mention preventing giant worms from rising up and destroying everything. As he says here, it's not easy being king. And this book is full of illustrations and tons of fun and humor, just like A Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And like I said, if you've been a fan of those books, this is right up your alley.
Michaela Dooley to the office, please.
I wanted to end with talking a little bit about the fact that our book fair is coming, and though I wish that we could be doing this in person, we won't be for the time being. I am excited that we get to do it online, at least this fall, and we'll be offering it for a 2-week stretch between Monday, November 16th and Sunday, November 29th. All of the purchases from you and your families do support our school to give us some new great books to add to our library, so I hope that you'll consider doing so. And there will be more information coming to your English classrooms very soon. Before I send off that information to your teachers and give you some of that, some more details, I wanted to share a couple quick book trailers because there are some awesome books coming our way with the book fair. And so I will share, or end my book talk, I should say, with those two book trailer videos to give you an idea of 2 great books coming to this year's book fair. Here is the first. Oops.
We're the Babysitters Club. Call us if you need us. Bye. Oh my God. Good afternoon, Babysitters Club.
You're learning about yourselves and the way you want to be in the world.
I started the Babysitters Club to take care of kids. But we were more than a club. We were best friends. Babysitters Club!
So they'll have the latest Babysitters Club book at the library soon because it'll be offered at the book fair. And if you want your own copy, that'll be one to pick up.
I've always had a strange fascination with dolls. For as long as I can remember, they've been my favorite toys. Dolls always seemed like my friends, better than real people. The best part is, when I play with my dolls play back. Come read with me at your Scholastic Book Fair.
Super creepy. So we have some of K.R. Alexander's books already in our library. We have The Guest, The Unwanted, The Undrowned, maybe a couple others. And we'll have that one in our library soon. Again, there are plenty that are going to be offered at the book fair, and I'll be giving some more information coming up. Thanks so much for your attention during our book talk. If you have any questions about any of the books I shared today, placing holds, visiting the library, the book fair, be sure and stop down or send me a message on Schoology. And in the meantime, like always, happy reading.